Well, the Easy Beats were very, very significant in Australia's musical history, despite the fact that, like many of Australia's major acts over the years, have actually not been from Australia. They've been from Scotland or England, or a lot of the great Billy Thorpe and the Aztecs. Billy Thorpe was originally from England. John Farnham, who's a great solo artist, probably our biggest of all time, he was born in London. Jimmy Barnes, who's a big solo act, he came from Scotland. A lot of the acts from Australia actually came from the UK, but despite that, the fact is that they had an Australianism about them. Australia was in a kind of a musical and historical and geographical backwash. We were separated from the rest of the planet, as we still are. And our influences musically came from England and from America. It wasn't just from England, it was from America, just exactly the same. And out of that, over a period of time, and we were very slow to become original artists in Australia and original songwriters. We didn't have that same depth as there was in England or America at that stage. But at the same time, we evolved our own sound with people like the Easy Beats, people like Billy Thorpe and the Aztecs, people like a band called Ray Brown and the Whispers, Ray Hoff and the Offbeats. There was always a lead singer and a band behind it, like the Rolling Stones. And there were very few bands that were in formation form like the Beatles, for just 4 players. Most of us had lead singer out the front. Of course there was exceptions to the rule, but most bands at that stage had a lead singer and 4 members, a bass player, 2 guitarists and a drummer, i.e. like AC/DC, i.e. like the Easy Beats. And it was important, their success within Australia was important because for the first time we created our own sound. We had our own sound and it just evolved. It wasn't something that was plucked out of the air. It was something that happened over a period of time. It was an musical evolutionary thing with people being, all we heard was a watered down version of American and English music. Of course, when the 60s came, that started to break down a little bit and we started to get unwatered versions, at that stage, Hendrix, Who, etc. But Australia did have an undeniable, unique sound emanated by the Easy Beats and Billy Thorpe and the Aztecs after a while, and it was kind of like, and later on bands like the Dingoes, who had a modicum of success in America, and bands like Rose Tattoo, who had a reasonable success in Europe. But there was a shuffling bar sound, but it was towards the end of the 60s, early 70s that really started to emanate, and that was at the same time as AC/DC started to come along. And it was very important because that was a unique Australian sound. And yes, there was bits of southern bar bands, American bar bands in the sound, and there was a little bit of other sounds, but it was quite uniquely Australian, and it came about because, as I said, we were listening and absorbing and being influenced by American and English bands and sounds. Of course, that progressed from the Rolling Stones and the Beatles right up into 69, 70 with Led Zeppelin. Led Zeppelin, of course, started a whole new ball game. But that was an Australian sound that I think it's fair to say was kick-started by the Easy Beats.